Class 6th, entitled Our Pasts. 1. Page number 91. Chapter number 9. Title: Traders, Kings and Pilgrims. Jagini at the market. Jagini looked forward to the fair in the village. She loved to see and touch the pots and pans of shiny steel. Bright plastic buckets, cloth printed with brilliant floral designs, and clockwork toys, all of which came from the city. The men who spread out their wares came in buses and trucks and went back at the end of the day. Why were they always on the move? She wondered. Her mother explained that they were traders, people who bought things where they were made and sold them elsewhere. How to find out about trade and traders? You read about the northern black polished ware in Chapter 8. This fine pottery, especially bowls and plates, were found from several archaeological sites throughout the subcontinent. How do you think it reached these places? Traders may have carried them from the places where they were made to sell them at other places. South India was famous for gold, spices, especially pepper and precious stones. Pepper was particularly valued in the Roman Empire. So much so that it was known as black gold. So, traders carried many of these goods to Rome in ships across the sea. And by land in caravans. There must have been quite a lot of trade, as many Roman gold coins have been found in South India. Can you think of how and why these reached India? Page number 92. A poem about trade. We can find evidence of trade in the Sangam poems. Here is one which describes the goods brought into Puhar. An important port on the east coast. Here are brought swift, prancing horses by sea in ships, bales of black pepper in carts, gems and gold born in the Himalayas, sandalwood born in the western hills, the pearls of the southern seas, and corals from the eastern oceans. The yield of the Ganga and the crops from the Kaveri. Foodstuffs from Sri Lanka, pottery from Myanmar. And other rare and rich imports. Make a list of all the things that are mentioned. What would they be used for? Traders explored several sea routes. Some of these followed the coasts. There were other across the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. Where sailors took advantage of the monsoon winds to cross the seas more quickly. So, if they wanted to reach the western coast of the subcontinent from East Africa or Arabia, they choose to sail with the southwest monsoon. And sturdy ships had to be built for these long journeys. New kingdoms along the coasts. The southern half of the subcontinent is marked by a long coastline and with hills, plateaus, and river valleys. Amongst the river valleys, that of the Kaveri is the most fertile. Chiefs and kings who controlled the river valleys and the coasts became rich and powerful. Sangam poems mention the Movindar. This is a Tamil word meaning three chiefs, used for the heads of three ruling families. The Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas. See map 7, page number 105, who became powerful in South India around 2,300 years ago. Page number 93. Each of the three chiefs had two centers of power, one inland and one on the coast. Of these 6 cities, two were very important, Puhar or Kaveri Pattinam. The port of the Cholas, and Madurai, the capital of the Pandyas. The chiefs did not collect regular taxes. Instead, they demanded and received gifts from the people. They also went on military expeditions and collected tribute from neighboring areas. They kept some of the wealth and distributed the rest amongst their supporters, including members of their family. Soldiers and poets. Many poets whose compositions are found in the Sangam collection composed poems in praise of chiefs who often rewarded them with precious stones, gold, horses, elephants, chariots, and fine cloth. Around 200 years later, a dynasty known as the Satavahanas became powerful in western India. See map 7. The most important ruler of the Satavahanas was Gautamiputra, Sri Satkarni. We know about him from an inscription composed on behalf of his mother. Gautami Bal Shri. He and other Satvahan rulers were known as lords of Dakshin Path. Literally, the route leading to the south, which was also used as a name for the entire southern region. He sent his army to the eastern, western, and southern coasts. Why do you think he wanted to control the coasts? The story of the Silk Route. The rich, glossy colors of silk, as well as its smooth texture, make it a highly valued fabric in most societies. Making silk is a complicated process. Raw silk has to be extracted from the cocoons of silkworms, spun into thread, and then woven into cloth. Page number 94. Techniques of making silk were first invented in China around 7,000 years ago. While the methods remained a closely guarded secret for thousands of years. Some people from China who went to distant lands on foot, horseback and on camels carried silk with them. The paths they followed came to be known as the Silk Route. Sometimes Chinese rulers sent gifts of silk to rulers in Iran and West Asia. And from there, the knowledge of silk spread further west. About 2,000 years ago, wearing silk became the fashion amongst rulers and rich people in Rome. It was very expensive, as it had to be brought all the way from China, along dangerous routes through mountains and deserts. People living along the route often demanded payments for allowing traders to pass through. Look at map 6, pages 76-77, which shows the Silk Route and its branches. Some kings tried to control large portions of the route. This was because they could benefit from taxes, tributes and gifts that were brought by traders traveling along the route. In return, they often protected the traders who passed through their kingdoms from attacks by robbers. The best known of the rulers who controlled the Silk Route were the Kushanas, who ruled over Central Asia and northwest India around 2,000 years ago. Their two major centers of power were Peshawar and Mathura. Takshashila was also included in their kingdom. During their rule, a branch of the Silk Route extended from Central Asia down to the seaports at the mouth of the river Indus. From there, silk was shipped westwards to the Roman Empire. The Kushanas were amongst the earliest rulers of the subcontinent to issue gold coins. These were used by traders along the Silk Route. Page number 95. Why do you think it would have been difficult to use carts along the Silk Route? Silk was also sent from China by sea. Trace the routes on map 6, pages 76-77. What do you think would have been the advantages and problems in transporting silk by sea? The spread of Buddhism. The most famous Kushana ruler was Kanishka, who ruled around 1,900 years ago. He organized a Buddhist council where scholars met and discussed important matters. Ashwaghosh, a poet who composed a biography of the Buddha, the Buddha Charit, lived in his court. Ashwaghosh and other Buddhist scholars now began writing in Sanskrit. A new form of Buddhism known as Mahayana Buddhism now developed. This had two distinct features. Earlier, the Buddha's presence was shown in sculpture by using certain signs. For instance, his attainment of enlightenment was shown by sculptors of the peepal tree. Now, statues of the Buddha were made. Many of these were made in Mathura, while others were made in Takshashila. You can see a picture on this page. It's a sculpture from the stupa at Sanchi. Look at the tree and the empty seat below it. Sculptors carved this to indicate that the Buddha had attained enlightenment while meditating under the tree. The second change was a belief of bodhisattva. These were supposed to be persons who had attained enlightenment. Once they attained enlightenment, they could live in complete isolation and meditate in peace. Page number 96. However, instead of doing that, they remained in the world to teach and help other people. The worship of Bodhisattva became very popular and spread throughout the Central Asia, China, and later to Korea and Japan. Buddhism also spread to western and southern India, where dozens of caves were hollowed out of hills for monks to live in. Some of these caves were made on the orders of kings and queens, others by merchants and farmers. These were often located near passes through the Western Ghats, roads connecting prosperous ports on the coast with cities in the Deccan ran through these passes. Traders probably halted in these cave monasteries during their travels. On this page, two pictures of Buddha are shown. On the left-hand side, an image of the Buddha from Mathura is shown. On the right, an image of the Buddha from Takshashila is shown. Look at these and note the similarities and differences that you may find. Page number 97. Buddhism also spread southeastwards to Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, and other parts of Southeast Asia, including Indonesia. The older form of Buddhism, known as Theravada Buddhism, was more popular in these areas. Read page number 100 once more. Can you think of how Buddhism spread to these lands? On this page, a picture is shown. It's a cave at Karle, Maharashtra. The quest of the pilgrims, as traders journeyed to distant lands in caravans and ships, pilgrims often traveled with them. Pilgrims are men and women who undertake journeys to holy places in order to offer worship. The best known of these are the Chinese Buddhist pilgrims, Fa who came to the subcontinent about 1,600 years ago, Xuan who came around 1,400 years ago, and Itzing, who came about 50 years after Xuan. They came to visit places associated with the life of Buddha. Chapter 6, as well as famous monasteries. Each of these pilgrims left an account of his journey. They wrote the dangers they encountered on their travels, which often took years, of the countries and the monasteries that they visited and the books they carried back with them.